What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Sit Down Saturday. Today is another versus. That's 2 in a row, and I do have a third lined up at some point. I just have to kind of make the logistics happen, but I don't think it's going to be for next week. But this week is for the two Shockwaves, New Age versus Magic Square. We've faced off with these companies before. It usually goes to New Age, in my opinion. I think I'd have to go back and check the stats on them, but you never know where it's going to go. I think this one's going to be particularly interesting to look at because they are both so bloody good. Both of these Shockwaves are two of the best figures that I've looked at, not only this year, but in Legends forever. So I'll be curious to see how it shakes out myself, especially not having a dog in the fight. Once again, there's some stuff we always have to talk about regarding this. Some of this is subjective. It comes down to aesthetics, but I try to stay as objective and fair as I can, even sometimes kind of nodding one point to another to kind of make up for something that I know is subjective in another place, blah, 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 blah. Also, in terms of scale, the only way to really judge it is to use the Sunbow chart. If you don't care about the Sunbow chart, then you can just leave that point out of it, but otherwise I have no baseline to use to judge it off of. Gotta go through it every time just to get ahead of it, but you know, the truth is, if you like it, you win. Whichever one wins in your heart is the one that wins ultimately. This is just kind of for the sake of having some sort of black and white measurement of where these companies kind of end up when they face off against one another when we continue to do verses. And it's kind of like good fun, I think, anyway. A little bit of housekeeping before we move on. One thing, the diorama, there was somebody that said you should get rid of the MP stuff and put legend stuff in there so that you can see the background. And while I appreciate that, the problem with is then you're faced with the detolf issue where it doesn't occupy the vertical space and it ends up looking out of place. I only know this firsthand because I've tried to do Billy dioramas with Star Wars 3 3/4 and it just usually ends up not owning the space. But I do appreciate it, and I appreciate all the kind words. There's a lot of kind words on that one, so thank you guys. Once again, all of the uncut stuff and full tutorials are on Patreon. Moving into the second thing, the Starscream thing. I just want to say this, that I'm putting a pin in that conversation. I've got nothing else to say about it. For those that want to know all of my opinions about that Takara Starscream, how I feel about it, not only with it, with how I feel about the kind of reaction from the viewership towards my opinion on it, or sometimes not my opinion, but just objective criticism of it, and also how I feel about sort of the reviewing game, the Takara's trajectory, all that stuff. Let me tell you what's available to you. There is the first impressions on Patreon, there's the uncut afterthoughts, me really having my way with it on Patreon, and then there's the review. Those are the kind of the first 3 steps. After that, there's a Nerd Rage episode called Starscream and Black Widow. The first 30 minutes, I think, are devoted to kind of how I feel about the comment section. And then there's obviously the Dummies video that kind of asks the question if I'm being fair or not, and there's an uncut of that also on Patreon. So that's the whole scoop. I've got nothing. I've exhausted everything I have to say about it at this point. If either you understand where I'm coming from or you don't. And for those that are like, I don't have the joint issues and I like the way it looks, then that's the piece for you. There's nothing, you won't get a complaint out of me about it. You won't get a complaint out of me about it if your joints suck and you don't like the way it looks, but you're happy you have it. If you're happy you have it, I'm happy you have it. But that's that. Other than that, that Planet X is awesome. I can't recommend it enough. A beautiful piece. And with that being said, let's get started. Let's look at these figures, but in order to do so, we have to start with accessories. And they both come with the rubber hose. They both come with alternate hand options. The Magic Square does come with more, but the New Age comes with a stand that works both in robot mode and in alt mode, which is something that they probably should have been doing with Shockwave for some time now. On top of that, they both come with the Shockwave alt mode gun, and gimmicks-wise, they both have the light up feature, so I really don't see any way out of this other than to tie them up, because they both are pretty much offering the same thing. My personal preference would be the New Age here, because I think the stand is more useful than the amount of hands they give you. However, if I'm playing it fair and down the middle, I have to acknowledge both. Moving on to build and materials. So, materials-wise, the New Age still edges them out. The plastics feel a little bit more sturdy and refined. But build-wise, because of the slight change in materials, the Magic Square feels just as good. So, build-wise, we're going to tie them out. Materials-wise, still New Age edges them out. Hardware-wise, once again, I'm going to tie them out because they both rely on ball pegs, pinned hinges, and tension swivels. So pretty much the same thing here across the board. Moving on to sculpt and paint, there's no sense in talking about the paint here kind of because New Age takes it because their figures pretty much, I mean, all of the purple and some of the gray even is painted. Whereas the Magic Square has a lot of paint accents, but not the same type of paint applied. So the New Age has to kind of edge them out in that regard. Proportion-wise, I think they both look great. Sculpt-wise, just looking at them from the front, I think it's also a tie. Nothing really stand out about either that edge the other one. Sculpt-wise, looking at the head from the front, I don't think that there's anything really to kind of stand out about either. They both do a really good job. The Magic Square one is a bit more narrow and tall, whereas the New Age one is a bit more wider and short. But I think that that's a preference thing. That's not a sculpt being better than the other. You can make the comment about accuracy. We'll get to that a bit later. However, in terms of just sculpt, they both have the crest down the middle. They both have clearly defined angles on the sides. The ears look good. There's nothing to really make one edge the other out. Same thing pretty much has to go for the side. Everything looks clear, distinct, well done, accurate, and appropriate. So, tie game. From the front, once again, kind of the same thing. I actually think Magic Square edges them out here because the ab crunch joint is not visible. But at the same time, the Magic Square has the ab crunch, it just hides the joint better. So sculpt-wise, I actually think Magic Square takes it here. From the side, I think it's a straight tie game. They both do everything pretty much right. I do like the extra sculpted details in the kind of collar pieces of the Magic Square, but I don't think that's enough to kind of edge them out here. I think it's pretty much a tie game, and Magic Square already took the lead in the front, so I don't feel the need to kind of edge one out. I keep saying edge a lot. Am I saying edge too much? I need to edge out my edging is what I need to do. As for the arm, we're going to do the cannon arm. I like the open hand of the Magic Square better on the open hand option. Also, the way the Magic Square kind of does the kind of swap out options for the wrist is kind of smarter. But looking at the arms, I think that they're pretty even in terms of sculpt. So deco-wise, I might like some of the choices that Magic Square did better. But since the New Age is going to take paint anyway, I think the only way to kind of do this is to give it a tie here, because once again, we see the visible joint with Magic Square, whereas the joint is a little bit more elegant with the New Age. Now, from the side, I think the Magic Square is the clear win here. It doesn't have the kind of opening pieces for the mushroom swivels and all that kind of stuff, so it actually makes me feel a bit better about it, because I do think the Magic Square deserves the edge due to, oh, I just did it again, just due to the wrist thing and the kind of way they did the open hand as opposed to the closed fist holding hand. So, yeah, we're giving Magic Square the arms. Looking at the hips and pelvis, I think it's pretty even, but I subjectively like the Magic Square better. However, they both have the kind of rectangles above the square look with the bump out in the middle, so like it's kind of the same sculpt work wise. From the side, I think that the sculpt work on the Magic Square looks better. I think the little circle thing on the back looks cooler. It has the extra sculpted line work in the middle of the hip flap, so I gotta give it to Magic Square. Looking at the legs from the front, I don't think that there's any real standout feature about either. I do find that the peg in the New Age is a bit unsightly, but it's not the worst thing in the world, and I kind of forgive it. So I don't think there's a whole lot to kind of single one out over the other. From the side, I think they both kind of do the same thing. I like the kind of wider gray piece on the Magic Square, but I like the kind of sharper knee pad on the New Age, so I don't think it's worthwhile giving one, I'm not going to say it. I am not going to say it. Making one take the lead in this category. There they are from the back. I do think that the New Age is kind of cleaner in the back across the board, like especially in the lower legs. It's kind of where it's most apparent, but also on the hip skirts. Now, the Magic Square backpack cleans up better if you put the cap on it, but I think that they're both kind of equal without it. So, also the fact that the New Age doesn't have all the kind of visible screws, I think we have to give it to New Age here, honestly. So, sculpt-wise goes to Magic Square with them taking 3 categories at the torso, arms, and hips. New Age takes the back, which is kind of unfortunate because it's not a strong category to take in the first place. And then they tie at the head, the overall front view, the lower legs, and the thighs. It's kind of interesting. It's another one of those things where, like, I kind of personally like the New Age aesthetically best, but when you start breaking it down piece by piece, you kind of see the extra work put into the Magic Square. It reminds me very much of the recent kind of Starscream comparison. Articulation-wise, the Magic Square is on a ball peg that's connected to a flap at the base of the neck that gets the head up to there, a little bit down, a swivel, confused scientist look. The New Age is also on a ball peg with a more limited range up, the same down, the same side to side, with confused scientist look. Waist swivel with ab crunch 90 degrees forward and even one slightly back. Waist swivel, ab crunch 90 degrees forward, nothing back. Ball peg connected to a hinge at the shoulder that gets the arm all the way up and 360 around. Ball peg with a hinge at the shoulder that gets the arm all the way up and 360 around. Bicep swivel, bicep swivel. Double jointed elbow for the full range. Single jointed elbow for slightly more than 90 degrees. Wrist swivel, wrist swivel. T-jointed ball joints for hips that drop down for a wide joint. Also, get you full Van Damme. And can we get this out of the way at all back here? Yes. Full Monty. Pinned universals, full Van Damme, full Monty. Thigh swivel, thigh swivel. Double jointed knee for almost the whole range. Single jointed knee for 90 degrees. Ankle tilt down, ankle tilt up, toe tilt up, heel down, and ankle rocker. Ankle tilt up, ankle tilt down, and a better rocker, but none of the extra stuff, but the rocker is more significant. I don't know what I'm gonna do with that one yet. Oof, pretty brutal. Magic Square takes the head, elbow, torso, and knees, and they tie in everything else. And I was being lenient with the ankles because I just felt bad for New Age, honestly, that it was just taking such a whooping. So I was like, you know, look, I'll just tie him out, and it won't affect the ultimate answer here, but it, you know, it'll give him a little bit of a better looking scorecard at the end. This one's pretty rough to look at. Scale wise, there they are, and actually the New Age kind of scales better to the Magic Square scale chart, which is kind of interesting. And it's funny because they both kind of scale wrong, but they both almost kind of scale identically. So I think that this is easily a tie. The interesting thing is you could get the New Age if you're doing a Magic Square collection and actually have him scale more appropriately to the Sunbow chart. Transformation-wise, they're both pretty similar in terms of their kind of enjoyment level and rewarding level and kind of intuitive level and easy to go across. The problem with the Magic Square is that, once again, the materials aren't quite as sturdy, so they kind of get fiddly, especially at the end when you're plugging all of the leg bits into one another. That can kind of cause you some heartache a little bit. Also getting the kind of upper arms kind of in line just right. Now the New Age, I think, is much more elegant, and the fact that it has the whole barrel in the chest is just some brilliant stuff. However, there is a bit of an issue with it tabbing all together at the end. You kind of have to have it perfectly lined up, which is a bit challenging. But I think that overall, one thing for sure, two things for certain, what's interesting is that they both are unique and also relatively unique to other Shockwave offerings in the past. But I think that New Age has to take the cake here due to the kind of genius level of hiding that barrel in the chest. It kind of gives you that masterpiece moment when you're going through the transformation process. Now conversely, when you're dealing with alt mode, I think the Magic Square looks cleaner and more purposeful. There's a couple issues that I have with the Magic Square. The kind of screw sitting on top isn't the greatest, and then also the kind of bump out in the back of the handle. But because there's a few extra steps in the lower body, like the legs, it ends up cleaning up, I think, more appropriately and ends up kind of standing out. But honestly, they both are beautiful, and the New Age kind of has an advantage because it deals with the stand, but we've already given them that credit. So I think just because of the way that the back end kind of cleans up a bit better for the Magic Square, and both the front ends on both look great, I think we gotta give it to Magic Square here. All right, which one do you think looks better?
This one. I think this one's a little smoother.
Okay. All right, which one do you think looks better?
They look pretty similar.
Agreed.
I think I prefer this one, but I think this one looks better.
So which one do you think looks better?
That one.
Okay. And which one feels better to you?
This one feels better, but this one moves the joints a little bit better.
Copy that.
It's pretty similar, but that one's a little better.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, Selena, which one looks better to you?
I like that one better.
This one here? Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you want to move them around a little bit? Which one feels better to you?
This one.
This one still?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Which one looks better to you?
This one.
This one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And...
this one feels better.
Oh, you think this one feels better?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Accuracy-wise, I have to give it a tie. There's just neither of them are exactly on point. If you look at the New Age, the back color against the eye is the wrong color, but the knees are right. If you look at the Magic Square, the knees are not right, but the hips are a little bit closer. The pelvis piece is a little bit closer. If you look at the New Age, it has the white bicep, whereas the Magic Square has the purple bicep, and the cartoon has the purple bicep, but the kind of shape of the feet are a little bit better on the New Age, etc., etc. Like, they're both so close and yet not exact, which is to be expected and I think perfectly fine. But as a result, there's not a way I feel comfortable edging one out over the other. I just did it again. I did it again. Anyway, they're both really, really close and really, really great in terms of capturing the character, I think.
So in the end, they tie in accessories, gimmicks, and build, as well as hardware and scale. They also tie in presence because it was 2 and 2. If I were to be the tiebreaker, I would say New Age, which would tie them out. But they tied, and the rules are the rules, so they tie in presence as well, and they tie in accuracy. Magic Square takes the articulation and sculpt, as well as the alt mode and accuracy and price, and New Age takes the materials, paint, and transformation, which brings us to a final score of 4-3 Magic Square. Very, very close game this go round.
So 4-3, and the nod went to Magic Square, which is interesting. And like I said, I think they're both fantastic pieces. It does once again raise the question, similarly to the Starscream, of, you know, what comes down to priorities, right? And the dummies and I discussed about perhaps build taking the priority of aesthetic. I'm not sure that I always agree with that, honestly, but I definitely understand the circumstances. But this is kind of like it's right in that same pocket. It's just so interesting. Truthfully, they're both great figures. You can't lose with either, and I think it would be curious if anybody's out there. Please send me a picture if you're collecting both. Robert could do this for me if he took the time to get the Magic Square, Megatron, Soundwave, Starscream, and put the New Age Shockwave with that crew, just so I could see what it looks like, since it looks like it scales better with them, honestly. So pretty interesting stuff, not for nothing. I really enjoyed the process of this one, for what it's worth, and I'll be back next week. So thanks for listening, thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.